Hello, everybody. I'm Gary with the Arizona Psychedelic Society, and we are here tonight. We have a guest speaker. His name is Tony Piazza. He is a veteran who has healed himself after his NDE experience through medicine, and he has worked with shamans and healers and different practitioners all over the world, and he's come tonight to share his journey and share a few things that he's doing. I know he's got a retreat coming up in Florida, Orlando, right?
Yeah.
It's this month, March 26th through the 30th, and we're going to be using various modalities of healing there, and you can get more information from him later, but it's exciting stuff, so here you go.
You have to hold it close.
How close? Is this good?
Intimately.
How's everyone doing? Good!
Good.
How many of you have experience with plant medicines? Everyone? Awesome. So my name is Tony, like he said. I'm a veteran. I had my awakening in 2018 after a suicide attempt and divine intervention. I can give you a little bit of my backstory. I don't want to go too far into that because it's very long, but I grew up in a very abusive home. My outlets when I was young were alcohol and the gym, so and sports. And then when I was in the military, I actually broke my back and blew out my shoulders and compressed discs in my neck and nerve damage, and it wore me down and eventually led to several suicide attempts, both with divine intervention, that led to my awakening. So my major near-death experience was in 2018. At that time I was on probation, all my nerve damage was firing off, I was in immense pain. The VA hospital wasn't doing much to help me. It was just endless cycles of appointments and medications and different things like that. My girlfriend was cheating on me. Everything in a sad country song was going on. And it beat me down to the point where I didn't want to be here anymore. So I attempted to essentially drink myself to death. I was drinking over a bottle a day, not eating, and doing cocaine and praying for my organs to give out until I was pissing blood and almost died in my sleep. And so one of the nights I fell asleep on my back, extremely inebriated, and I was throwing up, and my girlfriend couldn't move me, but something took over my body in that moment, and I showered, and then the next day I ended up deciding to turn myself into the VA hospital for suicide. And that was the longest walk of my life, because I always had to basically support myself, because I grew up in a very abusive home, like I said. So I was very independent, and I was the protector of everyone else, but when I needed help, no one was there for me. So the surrender moment and asking for help, it felt like a year walking down that hallway to go ask for help. And then once I turned myself in, they kept me for 4 days, and that's where they convinced me to claim my disability that I didn't think I deserved, because I was in the Navy on a carrier, launching the jets on the flight deck and moving them in the hangar bay. And I didn't feel like I deserved it because I wasn't on the battlefield, and I felt like those guys were actually serving, right? So they convinced me to claim my disability, and on the 4th day I got out, and it was around 2 p.m. and I got back to my apartment, and we had gotten a new puppy. So I took him out to go to the bathroom. We had an apartment in Phoenix, and there's a big grass area in the middle, and as I was walking out, my puppy runs in front of me, and a hawk flies over my head, nearly clipping me, and I thought I was gonna get my puppy, and it snatched a bird in front of him, and then flew off to my left, and I saw like 2 butterflies spiraling. And why all that stood out at that moment, I don't know, but it was really bizarre. And then that night, the cops actually showed up at my apartment to take me to jail because I missed my probation hearing because I was in the psych ward. And so in that moment, my soul was done. I was completely beat down, and I was stumbling around and pretty much fainting. Like, my soul is trying to leave my body, and I'm falling all over the place. And I thought to myself, if they get in this get in my apartment, I'm gonna slit my throat because I can't handle anymore. And so I collapsed on the floor, and in that moment I said, if there is a God, I'll do whatever you want, please make them go away. And next thing you know, the cops are gone. And then that night, I had very vivid dreams about the Holy Trinity, man and woman combining into light, frequency and vibration. And I was woken up at 3 a.m. to 3 loud knocks on my door and the dog barking. And so I get up and no one's there. And then I start receiving massive downloads and I think I'm going insane. So I'm researching everything that was coming up in my dreams, and it's leading back to biblical things and all of these. It was just blowing my mind. So I'm like full of this electric charge and energy. And as I'm copying and pasting things into my notes, I was led to Bach, the composer, and his compositions on the Trinity. And so I pasted all of those into my notes, and the only one highlighted in blue was Conantant, like CV19 or something. I don't know, it's in my history, but it deals with Archangel Michael. And I thought that was weird that it was the only one highlighted. So I put it in YouTube and I played that music, and my whole body was flooded with this electric charge and energy and this overwhelming sense of unconditional love and peace that I'd never felt before in my life. And I just collapsed to my knees bawling. And in that moment, I was out of my body looking at myself and basically apologizing for how I'd been living and asked to be used as a conduit. And so that day, I was researching more and more, getting into frequency and vibration, Nikola Tesla, all these things. And I actually took my dog out to the other side of the complex, and he was a little silver puppy with green eyes, and there's this old gray stump. So I stood him on it, and I take a picture, and I look left, and there were 2 bird wings laying perfectly in the gravel with no other part of the bird, and I just get a download of fallen angels, and all my hair stands up. So now I'm researching this and going down all these rabbit holes. And then that night, I had more dreams. And this one involved a friend of mine that I'd known since 5th grade. And we were in my apartment, and he's yelling, "The cops are here, the cops are here." And I run out and look out the window, and no one's there. And my phone on the counter rings. And so I pick it up, and I hear voices speaking, but it's almost like I got butt dialed. And then it got really clear, and I just hear them say, "He's going to be the one that's stepping up." And I was like, are they talking about me? And it registered as a yes. And we're going to push this to happen faster than we expected. We're giving him keys to the 4th something. And the next thing you know, I'm up 3 a.m., full of this energy, feeling like I'm going insane, researching things that are leading into more biblical stuff. And I grew up Catholic. I had a lot of resistance towards religion because I saw the guilt, shame, fear, and all the other stuff, judgment. So I'm diving down all these rabbit holes, and I feel like I'm missing something. So I'm pacing my apartment, and I decide to go walk outside barefoot, which I never used to do. I used to wear shoes into the lake. So I opened my door, and 3 $1 bills fell from the door and landed in front of me. And then I see a rock right next to my door that with the engraving that said "Live" on it. And I was like, who is fucking with me? And I walk to that grass patch where I saw the bird wings, and the bird wings were no longer there. And so I look back towards my apartment, and there was a tree, and there was an outline with the shape of a heart, and there was a star above it. And I was like, that's weird. So I take a picture, and I go in the house, download the star app. I've never looked at stars in my life. And it's like a star group, Karina, which was my girlfriend in the other room's name, and her sign Sagittarius. And I just sat down. I'm like, what do you want from me? You know, because this is crazy. And then the 3rd night, they were teaching me how to navigate the spiritual realms, and essentially they asked me, are you sure you want to take this path? It's not easy. And I said, I humbly accept. Please give me guidance and use me as a conduit. And I felt this weight come over me, and me go down to one knee, and I stood back up, and I had this golden armor on, and they said, so-and-so can no longer touch you. And I woke up again at 3 a.m, and it led me down more paths on all the spiritual things. And from that moment on, I was dedicated to this path, and my awakening and really diving into reprogramming my subconscious mind out of my victimhood mentality and reclaiming my power, which led to me kicking my girlfriend out that was cheating on me and stuff. She didn't like that I was taking my power back, and essentially getting up every morning at 4 a.m., rewiring my subconscious mind, listening to Neville Goddard, Abraham Hicks, reading all sorts of books, watching YouTube videos, and at that time I was only receiving, I think, I don't even know if I was receiving disability at the time. I'm trying to remember, but essentially I was living off of $150 a month for food and transportation, and barely getting by, going to food banks, opening the boxes of dried beans and rice, crying because I'd always been able to take care of myself. And prior to this, I didn't get too deep in my story before this, but prior to this, I was dealing cocaine and steroids and could have easily gotten fronted money and made ends meet, but I told God, if you want me homeless, I'll be homeless, you know. So it was a very big initiation, and then I actually went to get certified through the state for suicide intervention and peer support. And that's when I met another veteran, and he actually invited me to lunch and wanted to know my story. And we talked, and he told me about his near-death experience on the table when he was in the military in Vietnam, and essentially invited me to church, which I had a lot of resistance to, but at that moment I was like, I'm getting so many downloads, I might as well see. And so I went to church, and it was a normal thing, and then we went back to his house for men's Bible study group, and in that session, everyone was talking about their spiritual gifts and why they're here and different things, and at the end they asked for prayers, and I asked for healing of my physical body and financial help, and I started crying from gratitude. And during this whole process of my awakening, I would constantly be breaking down, crying from gratitude and having these profound aha moments. And so as I'm going through that, the guy across from me stands up, and he's like, he's being touched right now, and he stands up and puts his hand up, and my collarbone popped back into place without him touching me, and I was like, what the hell is happening? And then he invited me to his house the next day for dinner, and so I went, and I was deep in the frequency stuff and looking into crystals and all this other spiritual things, and you know, these were Christian healers. And so I got to his house, and right when I walked in the door, he had selenite crystals, he had an old school rife machine where he was healing people with, and I was kind of blown away. I was not expecting that. And so he was telling me all about frequencies, and he actually programmed like CDs where you could set your water on top of these CDs, and he'd program it with the frequencies of colloidal silver, and he was healing homeless with that. And then he actually put me on the bed that he had, and he would do muscle testing and quantum healing from long distance, and he was basically able to tell me like what metals were in my dad's blood from his hip replacement, that he was constipated, all of this stuff. And I didn't believe him, so I called my dad. I'm like, hey, are these the metals in your blood? And he's like, how the fuck did you know that? And I was like, are you constipated? And he's like, what? Why are you asking me this? And I was like, this is what this healer is telling me. And he's like, yeah, I haven't gone in 3 days because he was on narcotics for colon cancer. And I was like, well, is it okay if we send you healing? And he's like, I'll take anything I can get, you know? So he sent him healing, and I actually got a text the next day that he was able to go to the bathroom, and he had the best sleep of his life. But while I was there, he put me on the table with all these CDs with over 8,000 frequencies programmed into them, and I was holding selenite, and my energies were really flowing. And he kept leaving the room, and he came back in, and he's like, I can't believe this. I've never met anyone like you. Did you know you can heal with your hands? And I was like, no. And so from then on, he was kind of a teacher and a guide, and we would go around and helping homeless. And at that time, I was really blown wide open, so I would feel everything that they were carrying, and I would break down. And we'd place our hands on people, and things would happen. He actually took me to hospitals, and the same thing would happen. So it was a big mental battle for me to accept this new reality and be a channel for that. And then I ended up going to school for massage therapy and energy work at Southwest Institute of Healing Arts.
Oh, Gina's over here, everybody, giving table massages. Everybody wants to get a chair massage. I forgot. I was supposed to tell you that. Ah, Gina from Blue Dot, right over there. Go find her.
Yeah, she's got magic
Thanks.
hands too. So I was interested in the energy work part, but I had to take the massage because that's the only thing that the GI Bill would cover that was legit, you know. So in that, I learned the power of the healing power of touch, because my body's pretty beat up. So when I was getting worked on every day in class, I really started healing and repairing. And at that time, I was riding my bike 25 miles a day to school, and got back in the gym, and just it was an amazing experience, because before that, I really didn't like people touching me. I didn't like giving hugs or anything like that. Now I'm a big hugger and lover, but it was a really amazing time. But about 7 months into school, maybe 8, I had an old coworker hit me up and asked me if I had done ayahuasca. I was like, no. He's like, oh, I thought you had from all your spiritual posts. And I told him I had this crazy, like, natural spiritual awakening, but I would love to. And so he introduced me to Clay Villanueva, who I ended up living with and serving ayahuasca with for a minute. But I sat in my first ayahuasca ceremony, and in that ceremony, I had profound healing and almost cosmic surgeries where my body would lock into place and I could feel them working on me, and there was deeper understanding, and I was interacting with different beings that were essentially scanning the purity of my heart and my intentions before they would give me certain gifts and wisdom. And they showed me my life path working with these medicines and taught me how to do psychic surgeries on myself instead of purging. I would pull it out of myself, and that's something I do when I work on people now as well. But it was very profound, and when I started telling people everything that I went through in that first ceremony, they're like, "This is your first one?" I'm like, "Yeah, is that not normal?" They're like, "No." And so I was able to come in and out of the medicine at will. I could sense when the shaman was coming around, and I'd get up at the end of my mat and be like, "Do you need help?" He's like, "I'm checking on you, dude. What are you doing?" So, like I said, they showed me my life path working with these medicines. I actually tried to run from it, and I bought a one-way ticket to Bali because I had an artist friend there, and showed up 2 hours early for my flight, and they said I was 5 minutes late to check my bags. So I got all pissed off and went back to my Airbnb and drank some whiskey, and then woke up in the morning to a voicemail from the VA hospital saying I needed to be back in Wyoming to get reevaluated to increase my disability benefits. So I came back through Arizona, and they happened to be having another weekend ceremony, and they said I always had a space. So I ended up sitting again, and in that ceremony, I went through more of my deep inner healing of like childhood traumas and things like that. And she actually told me, like, you need to prepare yourself, you're going to the jungle. And I was like, I don't have money for that. And she's like, don't worry about the money, you're going. And so I ended up going home to Wyoming and getting a big back paycheck, and then I ended up in the jungle, and I actually got to go down with the facilitators because they saw that I was gifted already with that. So I went down the week with just the facilitators, and then the big group came, and then Mother Ayahuasca was pretty much working through me to help assist others in their journeys and make sure they're safe. And I had people yell out Uber if they needed help to go to and from the bathroom, things like that. The shaman there actually wanted to mentor me, but I didn't speak Spanish, and that's when Clay and his wife Cece invited me to live with them here in Arizona and serve ayahuasca. So we were doing 2 weekends a month with 20 to 30 people, several helpers, and the evolution of my understanding and my gifts and abilities just continued to evolve throughout that process. And I don't know how long I was doing that, but we ended up, so this is my girlfriend Alia. She's a holistic nurse, at at an Oasis of Healing here in Mesa, Arizona. So essentially, we met when I was doing body work at my friend's vegan bodybuilder gym, and it was their grand opening. At that time, I was doing body work, and she came in, standing all alone, and we were just kind of friendly and introduced ourselves. We're all from Wyoming, little like cowboys over there, but cowboy meatheads. And essentially we met then, and then she started following my journey. And so she would reach out because she started going through her awakening, and then ended up sitting in medicine. And essentially she was moving back. She was in Colorado. She decided to move back to Arizona, and I was going to introduce her to my shaman Clay. And then she came, and there was we just hit it off. It was random. So after that day, we were together every day, and I was guided to get out of the country and decided to go to Costa Rica within 2 days. And I was like, hey, I'm going to Costa Rica, you want to go? And she's like, yep. And so we flew out, and what was supposed to be a 9-day little vacation, and then I was going to take her to sit with real shamans up in the mountains of Peru. On the 9th day, all flights were canceled, and all the doors opened up for us there. So I ended up meeting amazing people, got super cheap rates because no one could come in there, so we got amazing housing. I met an ex-real estate mogul who was serving bufo, so I got to experience that medicine. She started working for a doctor helping Navy SEALs with ibogaine, and so I got to sit with that medicine, which was really profound, which I'm going to be speaking on too a little bit, but I don't know where I'm going now. So we did all that work. We also sat in some ayahuasca ceremonies, and then came back, and we were learning from people how to cure cancers and stuff down there holistically. And then I came back, and Clay, the shaman I work with, actually I'm going to go into my ibogaine because it kind of plays into this. But so my ibogaine experience was 24 hours long, and it was IMAX.
What is ibogaine?
Ibogaine's a plant from Africa, so it's the iboga root bark, and ibogaine is the isolated medicine from that. Typical ceremony is 16 to 24 hours. Mine was 24, and it was the most profound, clear, direct visions that I've had. It wasn't mystical. I don't know how to explain it, but it was like this, like remote viewing. I essentially had living movie visions of my whole life review. A lot of my childhood I didn't remember. I was in moments and witnessing everything from more of a detached but loving witness. I went through my mom's whole life from conception until now, and saw the trauma that she endured and how it shaped who she was. I went through my dad's. I even went through my stepdad's life. I traveled the cosmos. I asked how many times I incarnated, and it felt like the beginning of time. And then I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, how many times on Earth? And it was like 1,423, and I'm like, no fucking way. And then I was in the living movie of like a life. One of them was a lady planting a garden, and I was a sunflower waving at myself, and I just started laughing. And then it went into like a hawk and a jaguar, and then I was like, okay, what about humans? And then the next thing you know, I'm in. I would shift from being in body to third person and witnessing, and the first one that I was in was a gladiator, and I followed myself out into the Coliseum, and I actually was killed by a giant, and they're real. I'm not making that up. But he killed me so quick, and I was like, well, did I at least win any? And it shows me slaughtering people. I'm like, okay, I didn't need to see that. And then another one, and I think that it was showing me my violent death so that I could process that from my soul level. Hindsight now, but another one, I was a knight on a horse, and we collided with the enemy, and I was stabbed through my side, which I actually have a dent in my ribs on that side, which is crazy. And I fell off my horse, and my pointy helmet was in the dirt, and I drove my legs until I bled out and died. Another one, I was a warrior running across like this lumpy grass field, and then it panned out. I see this stone catapult launch a boulder, and then it zooms back in, and I'm running the other direction, and then the boulder bounces and crushes me. Another one, I was in the body and I felt really weak, and I just see like cloth shoes, and then it pans out and there were two men dragging me. I was a woman, and they tarred my face and chest and lit me on fire, and I saw the Salem witch trials. A lot of violent deaths. And then I asked like what was one of my higher timelines, and it took me to a place like a mountaintop, and I was in the body and I see a woman cleaning my feet, and then I'm walking up to another healer on this mountainside, and we hug and embrace, and then they started bringing people up one by one, and I was hitting their backs with feathers and doing healing work. But essentially, I was also shown future events in ibogaine. Every time I do ibogaine, it shows me future events, and a lot of them within my personal life started coming to fruition within weeks. And it, like, cause I didn't know what I was looking at, right? It was like, I don't know what timelines I'm looking at, I don't know what to think of all this. And then it just started happening. It was like the universe was winking at me. But like I saw my grandma getting dementia, and I told my mom, you need to get her blood work and this and that, and they ignored me. Months down the road, my aunt and uncle visited, and she was showing signs, and sure enough, that happened. But one of the major ones was Clay, the guy I served Aya with, was in court. And then I saw him put a gun to his head and blow his brains out, but that was more symbolic that I recognized later. But essentially, he was raided 2 weeks later by the DEA illegally, and he was in ayahuasca church. And they basically took away his life path and confiscated his ayahuasca and said he was producing and distributing $4 million of DMT and all sorts of crazy things. So he was really defeated, and when I moved back to Arizona, he was actually diagnosed with cancer after I'd been learning how to cure cancers holistically. So I was telling him all the things that he needed to do, and he didn't listen to me, but he ended up going to Costa Rica to go through all of that, and I took care of him throughout that process. And it was really hard for me because he taught me a lot about just the divinity and the magic in life, and to see him so defeated and forget who he was, I had to witness that. And he went into fear, and I kept trying to remind him, hey man, like, you have to have faith. You didn't do anything wrong. Every time you come around that corner, I want you to pretend like you had that phone call and they dropped all the charges. And he would just smirk at me, you know, and then I just watched him spiral, and it was really, really hard for me. That was very difficult to witness and be a part of, to have someone that you've admired and then him forget who he was through that process. And I took care of him until he finally crossed over, and then, well, 2 weeks before he crossed over, they actually dropped all the charges. So it was a big lesson for me too, throughout my trials and tribulations, to always have faith and lean in and not to fold. And I carry that with me. And he's come to me in many, many ceremonies, and I got to understand and know his soul and how he chose to lead that way, and just so much reverence and respect for him and his path. And he turned that around on me, and he's like, you don't give yourself enough credit. Like, look at everything you've overcome and things like that. But during that process, when I was taking care of him, I actually brought some changa home from a friend in Costa Rica. And I started serving that with one-on-ones with just friends. And that began to evolve into what I have created and then serve now, which is similar to changa. My medicine, changa is typically like 2 or 3 plants with DMT and an MAOI and something else. Mine has probably 16 plus plants. It's got DMT from the Mimosa hostilis, Syrian rue harmalas, ayahuasca tincture, blue lotus, bovensana. There's a whole list, but I basically have flowers and herbs that I was guided to add to it from every continent. And it lasts about 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And in that time, I'm guiding you through that process. I'm doing hands-on healing. I have giant 15-pound tuning forks that I use that my friend has created from his own visions in ayahuasca. They're amazing. They vibrate through your whole body and kind of extensions of me. Sometimes psychic surgeries, receive visions and downloads. When she helps me, she does Reiki on you. She'll get visions and downloads as well. So this medicine, I don't like to call it changa because it's not, but I haven't named it yet. But that's basically what I do now, is I serve one-on-ones, and then I do retreats, and we do a heart opener ceremony with sassafras, sometimes with a little 2CB, and then do the deeper work with my medicine, and sometimes bufo. But I guess I'll open it up for questions, but I don't know what else to talk about.
What can you tell us what like your experience was with ibogaine as far as like sensation wise? How did it feel?
So with other medicines, you're almost disconnected from your body. With this one, you're almost more in your body, but also feeling things. How do I explain this? In more depth. So like, I was able to remote view when I'm in the medicine. Like, I'm fully capable of moving, talking. I was sharing everything I was seeing with the nurses. At one moment I was watching all of us from above, and she got up to go get water in the other part of the house, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna sit up and scare her. And I have a blindfold on, right? So I can't see anything. Right when she hit the door frame, I sat my body up and I waved. I'm like, I can see through everything. And so like, there's a ibogaine I like because you're present. It's not so disconnected from the physical form. It almost merges both, where, and a lot of people say this, it's like movie-like vision. So like, I'll have a movie come in and then I'm in it, and then it'll play whatever. Ibogaine's a very direct teacher, so it's not like mystical, emotional, put the puzzle pieces together later, kind of like ayahuasca sometimes and these other medicines. It's more masculine, so it's going to be like cause, effect, change it. And it doesn't let you skip a lesson. It'll circle back. Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? I like that. I like to be told directly. It is very confronting. I did have to face like my deepest fears that I didn't even know I held. I had to see things that I would not like to see, including my mom having sex and my grandma and everything. It was disgusting. But it was basically showing me that this is part of the natural cycle of life. Like, get over yourself, you know? I'm like, yeah, but I don't need to watch it. Thanks. But yeah, so my medicine's kind of, I would say, similar to smokable ayahuasca. It's kind of visual, very visual. And I like to do, usually it's 1 to 3 rounds I sit with you. So we'll do one-on-ones, and it'll be 3 to 5 hours. Talk about your intentions, pull some oracle cards, get you prepared. I can usually gauge based on your breath and body movement if you're holding on somewhere, so I'll guide you to breathe. I'll put my hand on your chest, I'll move your energies, make sure you feel safe, and guide you through it. The entry, typically, some people break through immediately, but the first round is typically what I call DMT land, where you're seeing the fractals, the colors, sacred geometries, a lot of things coming at you at once. A lot of people's analytical mind will try to analyze everything. What does this mean? What's that? Da, 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 da. And I always try to tell people, you need to surrender and just be an observer and let go of overanalyzing. And that's when you break through to the next level. A lot of that's to distract your ego analytical mind until you finally give up so that you can break through. So the first one's generally that, right? You'll have a lot of fears and anxieties. It's a new experience. You're learning how to surrender. And then the second and third one is when I really have the profound breakthroughs, where people are speaking to their loved ones who have crossed over, or direct connection with God and the divine and certain beings, and feeling them being worked on, being taught things. I help a lot of like special forces and veterans, first responders, and I mean people from all walks of life. But when I do work with that crowd, there's a lot of purging typically in the first round because they're holding on to so much. So I kind of guide them through that process. Essentially, being a facilitator is, it requires a lot of accountability and integrity, being pure within yourself, doing your own inner work. So you can become a pure vessel, and you're not projecting, you're able to hold the container and no matter what the situation that arises. So I have gone through some really intense initiations on many different levels, pulled entities out of people, all sorts of things. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not good at this.
Sound pretty good. Who else got a question?
No.
Come on. So,
Yeah, I get a lot of feelings and knowings, and then I'll get visions. Sometimes, just like I'm in ibogaine. I turn on shaman mode when I set up. I don't really have that on all the time, but when I get in that mode is when I start to feel and experience and see things. And some of it doesn't make sense. Like I did a ceremony where I thought I was going to go talk to ETs, and it ended up being my stepsister that my dad murdered when she was 5 years old, and I had to help her process that experience. And then I also had to process my dad's anger and guilt and disgust and different things like that. And at the end of it, I kept hearing apple pie, and I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything other than crying, you know? And then I just heard, like, just trust yourself. This is easy. And I started laughing. I'm like, okay. So I knew I had a half brother. I'd spoken to him once. This is a whole nother story. But I sent him a big long message, like saying, hey, your sister wants you to know she's with you. She's okay on the other side, this and that. I don't know if apple pie means anything to you, but that came through very strong. And he messaged me and he said that was our favorite food and the last thing that we ate before the incident. So it may not make sense to me, but little things like that can be confirmations for people. So I've learned to just say it, even if I feel like I sound stupid. So.
You mentioned working with 2CB a little bit. Can you expand on that a little bit, like what that's like and how you use it?
That would probably be more, I work with Jazz, my soul sister out of LA, and she works more with the heart opener medicines. But combined with that, like sassafras can kind of be a lot of energy and cracky, I guess you would say, you know? 2CB kind of calms it down and brings you in your body so that it's not, people aren't up all night. So it's a good combo.
What was the most profound experience you had, and what were you like before, and what were you like after?
The profound experiences happen over and over again. Prior to my awakening, I had severe anger issues, heavy in victimhood because of all the pain and suffering I've been through. And I think that just through all of this work, it's really helped me essentially deprogram and heal so that I can embody unconditional love and peace and non-judgment to a higher level. There's always more, right? But instead of reacting to life, I'm learning to respond and take the lessons away from things instead of getting angry, upset so much. Kind of learning to step back and ask, like, what is this showing me? What is this teaching me? And in my ibogaine, it did show me like judgment is a huge form of separation, and what we judge and condemn, we basically have to endure ourselves on a soul level in this life or the next. So really understanding that everyone's path is divinely orchestrated, and we have no room to judge any soul's path and what they're learning through whatever process or experiences they're going through. The only thing that we can do is love them unconditionally and support them if they ask, you know? So non-judgment and just learning to live from love. And you're not competing with anyone, you're not above another person. We're all here trying to walk each other home in our own remembrance, you know? So.
When you're working with people that have experiences with entities, do you help guide them at all to use their own inner authority to determine whether or not to listen? You know, because even sometimes family members might want to give you guidance, but might not always be the best.
Right.
You know?
I think that discernment is built through experiences like that. And I mean, I've certainly gone through my own attacks and initiations that strengthen me. and to stand in my light and my authority. And I think that, I mean, I have friends that do hardcore removals and all sorts of things. When they happen, and it's very rare that I deal with it, but when it does happen, an angelic presence comes through me, and it's not something I'm really thinking about doing anything. It's just something that flows through me, and that's a big part of what I do is I get out of the way, because the analytical mind is not your friend in that moment. But obviously, like purifying your heart and mind, and watching out what you're energizing mentally. So I give a lot of people, like I give them workbooks before and after for integration, and also warn them about their mental diet and what they're inputting into that. If I do feel like they are dealing with an entity, I generally send them to my friend that's what he's an expert at. If it comes up in my ceremonies, I deal with it on the spot and flow with it. And it always works out. There's always a lesson within that, right? Even for me when I get attacked. But yeah, that's why we all have different gifts and abilities too. I think that we're not meant to do all this alone, and I've been very fortunate to have genuine, highly gifted psychics and healers around me, so I even need to be cleaned up. You know, I'm always checking to make sure I'm clear, going through that process, and you know, it's multifaceted. It's not I don't know, I don't think there's a rule book to it, but it depends on what you're dealing with, you know.
Yeah, your changa-like medicine that you serve, do you take medicine while you serve?
No, I will load the bong
Uh,
and then I hand it off, so I get like a micro, I guess. But I'm not taking the medicine full on. Ayahuasca, they would double dose me when I would help serve Aya. So I could still function with that. But yeah, my medicine, you don't really need to. And I've created a really good relationship with those plants and the energy of that medicine. So right when I start to set up the room, like you feel the energy shift. But yeah.
Is the chemical makeup of the changa the same as the crystals that people are doing, the NMDMT?
Is that the synthesized bufo or is that just normal?
No, it's normal.
Yeah, I use the plant, the crystals. So essentially I use the DMT crystals with Syrian root harmalas and ayahuasca tincture
Okay.
and mix it in Everclear to dissolve everything, and then I have my tea mixture of all my flowers and herbs, and I pour it over and it's cured. And it takes a week, and I'm blessing it, charging it with frequencies and prayer and all that stuff through the whole process until it's cured. So
Similar, different delivery system.
yeah.
Plus all of your special antigens.
Yeah.
Special.
So
love.
essentially the MAOIs prolong it, right? Because I didn't want like a quick hit launch off. I wanted it to be ceremonial. And some of the people that I have served that serve ayahuasca, and they call it businessman's ayahuasca, because you can go in and do deep work and then be on the road again within like 2-3 hours. So long lunch break. But it's still really profound and amazing. So it's very humbling to be able to do that.
Back to the ibogaine. What is your, like, where you work or who you work with? What's the protocol for like safety, and what do you guys do there around that?
So there's a whole intake form run through Jazz, my friends in LA. They've been doing this for longer than me. And especially if there's someone that's coming off medications or drugs or anything like that. There's a whole detox protocol. You have to get your heart checked. So you have to get an EKG, liver panel, just to make sure that you're good with that. There's all sorts of forms and contraindications that we go through, and then go through the interview process, see where you're at in your journey, if this would be right for you or not. Sometimes the other shorter lived medicines are better to start with, just so that people can get some work done and clear some things and learn to surrender, because once you're locked into an ibogaine, you're not getting off that roller coaster for 16 to 24 hours. So yeah.
What do you got, Hector?
Am I done?
I know he's got something. He's always got something.
Where do do you get the pink sneakers?
That is
All
an
those,
excellent question.
They don't make them anymore. I got all the different colors, but they quit making colorful shoes. Now they're all black, brown, and I used to wear all black, so now I'm colorful because,
Goes with your shirt.
yeah, the cosmos.
Have you found different medicines complement different stages of healing journeys people might experience?
Yeah, I take it on a case-by-case basis, generally, and where the person's at, and we'll muscle test it. And I also have, like, some of my psychic friends check out people if I feel like there might be some other things that need to be addressed first. But yeah, I think the different medicines and the person facilitating definitely matter. Making sure your facilitator is very heart-centered and empowering you and not trying to be your savior, but also operating from a place of integrity and accountability, and someone that's actually done the work themselves and actually embodies it and is in process of doing that, right? Because we're never perfect. There's always more work to do, but just someone that you generally feel like safe with. Safety is big. You know, if you go in there nervous and you're unable to surrender, it could cause more trauma, and that's something that we really focus on, is making sure people feel safe and secure. And did I miss anything? I think every facilitator is going to attract the people that are meant to work with them. So
It's an energy exchange, so gotta
Yeah.
align. Absolutely.
yeah.
You want to tell us about where to go to find these things that you're working? How do we contact?
Contact me.
Contact you directly?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to have a conversation and see where you're at, I mean, if I can't help you, I have people that can, you know, and kind of gauge it from there. I guess I'll just leave you my info,
Perfect.
and then people can text me. I'm Awakened Veteran on X. I post a lot of spiritual stuff there as well, and I've been heavily shadow banned on Facebook and Instagram for the last 5 years. So I'm Awakened Veteran on Instagram as well, but 22. Sorry, Awakened Veteran 22. Sorry.
Does the VA pay for any of your services?
No, the VA doesn't cover this. They're starting to, I believe, bring that forward, especially with ibogaine laws and stuff. But there are a lot of different programs where veterans can sign up to go through medicine ceremonies and stuff as well. So that's starting. I can't think of the names right now. I follow a bunch of them. Do you remember that one? That was in California? No?
I know there's the Mission Within.
Mission Within.
That's in Texas, though. And
There's a bunch.
They get funding for.
And generally, if someone can't afford it, I work with them, you know, as long as there's proper energy exchange. You have, like, whenever you approach these medicines, when you do it with reverence, respect, and sincerity, like genuine sincerity, the medicine will always meet you, and you get a lot more out of it. So I always try to coach people through that. Like, really think about why you're doing this, what you want to get out of it, and start to make the sacrifices leading up to the medicine, like cleaning up your diet, starting to do the mindfulness practices and breath work. And the more effort you put in going into it, the more spirit will give back to you. And the more you integrate, the more you get as well, because there's always new levels. So,
What's your integration practice? Like, what do you do personally?
I've gone all over the place, and now I'm circling back to the basics. And as far as continuing to rewire my mind, right? I'm gonna start doing breath work again every day, because I fell off so hard with that. It's like worse than going to the gym, but once I do it, I'm like, why am I not doing this? And then reading. I do a lot of, so I always send people a lot of different books that have really helped me. Embodying like Christ consciousness and your true I am presence and things like that. The Way of Mastery is one of the books. The other one is The Journey, The Life and Teachings of the Master of the Far East. I kind of listen to each individual because I've read a lot of books, and I think that keeps me in that vibration of really questioning things and being open to the expansiveness of the universe and the journey of the soul. That's another book, like Life Between Lives by Michael Newton, Journey of Souls. What's the one by Robert Schwartz? Your Soul's Path, and then it basically dives into how we choose our avatar, our family, our major lessons in life,
Oh, your soul's gift.
and your soul's gift, yeah.
That's
And so
it.
it helps you change perspective, because I was very bitter, having lived through intense abuse my whole life and having a lot of hardships, you know, and then you have others that get away with everything and they're not good people, you know, so it helped me to change my perspective around things and get out of victimhood and start to see the beauty in all of it. And I think that's, like, I find that everything that I went through actually gave me the gifts that I needed to serve, and because I can analyze and feel things that most people don't even like see or feel, because of the environment I grew up in was so abusive and intense. I had to be able to read energies and things like that. So a lot of these traumas, when you heal, become some of your gifts, you know? And then you can also hold space for others that are going through that from the other level or the other side of it, you know? So.
Experience. Yeah. Anybody else? Thank you, Tony.
Thank you guys.